Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 650 on Tuesday, the 23rd of September, 2025. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And a week where we wonder where the time has flown. You'll be given your warning now that the Alan Drinking Game trademark is back this week, twice. In new car news, you'll hear us apologising for missing one car out from last week's Munich roundup. And in points of interest, you get a list of the week from one Italian designer who has ties to the northwest of Britain. And first of all, we jump straight into follow-up. And can you guess what it is, ladies and gentlemen? I bet you can. Yes, we're still talking about JLR and a cyber attack. Unfortunately.
Well, nobody's talking about Dieselgate, so we might as well have some kind of misery to discuss every week. Pretty much on brand, really.
Well, actually, I think we can in another story and not too far away because it is all implied. However, JLR, they were due to start production tomorrow on the 24th of September, 2025. However, today, on the day of recording, they decided to announce, actually, we're putting it back another week to the 1st of October following the cyber attack and the inability to restart their systems in a meaningful manner, or possibly at all. We don't know because communication is still utterly pants. And by the way, anyone in JLR, do go and recommend that your board goes off and gets crisis communications training because I cannot believe how poor it's been on this. Ignoring that, that's just a side note. As someone who has had experience of these things, that's a side note. They're still down, still not made anything. It looks like they are not going to make a single vehicle or be able to register a vehicle digitally for a month, which is horrific, obviously.
On many levels.
Yeah, it is allegedly costing, according to Professor David Bailey, who is a friend of the show, and he's very good and up on the business economic side of things, thinks it could be costing JLR up to £5 million a day. I don't care who you are, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I know we have put the boot in on how this has been handled and decisions that have been made, etc., that have led up to the position they're in now. I don't care who you are, $5 million a day is enormous.
Yeah.
And that has had, unfortunately, a huge knock-on effect. We touched on it last week, but the supply chain is really being hammered to the point where staff in supply chain companies are being told to seek universal credit. Now, last week we talked about how people were becoming louder and getting the government to help out, and we were very reticent in that. Mm-hmm. However, what we want to clarify is we know this is not a bailout. This is not like the bankers in 2008.
Yeah.
The idea is to go along a furlough scheme, so therefore there is a payment back type effort or the COVID loan type thing. Mm-hmm. There is accountability. It is not a handout. It is not a freebie. It is purely to help people survive. We are totally in favour of that.
Absolutely.
We don't want anyone to suffer for any of the decisions that have led to this position and this point. Really reiterating that because that possibly didn't come through as well as it should have.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We don't want any JLR suppliers to go bankrupt either because that has huge knock-on effects across the car industry in the UK, let alone in local communities, etc. Mm-hmm. But to think they will come out and be building stuff on the 1st of October, I think is hugely optimistic. The points remain from last week.
Can we make it clear to people, by the way, you're not meant to shut down your entire production process from materials to, it's not a production process, to sales.
Yeah.
At once.
No.
Ever.
No.
Trouble is, whilst you might have lots of the procedures and everything in place for individual systems to be brought back up, and that's normal.
And one would hope.
Well, I would sincerely hope that they have resiliency plans in place, but that's for the individual systems because you think, well, the likelihood of everything going down is crazy. So you've got the individual one.
No one will have entertained that.
No, but you sit there and then go, but hang on a minute. What are the dependencies between these things? So what order should we bring them back up in? And it's not just dependencies in terms of information and all the fun stuff that I deal with in my day job. In terms of information and APIs and all this kind of stuff and what's transferred where, it's as much a case of, well, actually, where can we start? Do we start at the beginning of the process? Do we start with our most important things first? But then will those need the other things done?
Are you doing a soft restart as well?
Well, exactly. There's a lot of, this is why the original timescales was so ridiculous, and why we felt it was so ridiculous is because experience shows it's blooming complicated to do this. And this is why we keep being quite so negative on the timescales that we're given.
Yeah.
Just because we actually understand the complexity that goes into running manufacturing organizations, even as business as usual, let alone in oh my goodness, we have to restart the whole darn thing.
And we would love to be wrong, by the way. We would.
Oh, goodness, yes. I would always love to be wrong whenever I'm being so negative.
I would applaud and I would sing the praises of JLR, their cybersecurity and their IT support people. If we turn out to be wrong, I would love to do that. However, I don't believe we are going to be wrong at all.
But yes, I was going to say, but Andrew, even without the podcast, we know people who work in companies, and we have an idea of what happens.
Anyway, in the show notes, there will be linked Autocar's latest article, which keeps changing every day because they don't write a new article; they just update the article they've got going. So that's good.
It makes sense. Will Rimmel's doing a great job on that.
Yeah,
but it should be highlighted. A great job on that, so that there is a story and a history in there. You can begin at the beginning, and you can learn all about it. Top kudos to Will for that.
And this is motoring journalists having to learn about production, cybersecurity, technology, and all sorts of stuff.
SAP.
In a crash course, literally a crash course. As you say, well done, Will, on this. This is a really excellent reference point for us. But there will also be an article from The Record that goes in and discusses more in depth the impact on the suppliers for JLR. So you can get an impression as well of how hard this is hitting these people, and how much of an impact this sort of thing has. It is much more complex, much bigger than the M&S and the Co-op. That inconvenienced us when shopping. This is much more complicated and has much bigger impacts. And I hope from this, the government and industries across the country and individuals start to wake up to cybersecurity and the need to take it seriously.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, Alan, do you want to move us on to some more good news?
Yes. CITROEN has issued 4 models with no drive notices. And yet somehow that's still better news than the JLR stuff. It's over brake worries. The issue affects the C3, the EC3, the C3 Aircross, and the EC3 Aircross, which, if they've been trying to write tongue twisters, they could hardly have come up with anything much harder.
These are brand new models.
Oh, yes, these are brand new models. The problem is that the pedal box assembly in the right-hand drive cars hasn't been built to the correct specification. That means there's a heightened risk of brake loss.
Seems quite serious, to be fair. I applaud CITROEN for going, stop.
And it says, if this were to happen, the automatic emergency braking and the electronic parking brake would remain fully operational. As far as we know, this hasn't actually happened.
No.
There is a risk of this happening.
Yes.
Don't drive it.
No.
But this isn't because things have happened.
Yeah.
The new Vauxhall Frontera and the Frontera Electric, which are much easier to pronounce, are also affected, but there haven't been any customer deliveries of those cars yet, and Vauxhall is saying that they will be rectified prior to delivery. I think they know what the problem is. I think they know how to fix the problem, and it's just a case of a case of fitting the right bits, really. This is better than... It's better. Gee whiz, I've got to watch my wording on this.
Less bad.
This is a less bad than the airbag one, of course. The terrible risk of a face firework.
But this is the third stop drive from CITROEN in 3 months, unfortunately for CITROEN.
Yes.
Yeah.
One last thing, by the way. The Grande Panda and the Grande Panda Electric are not affected by the issue, according to Fiat.
Okay, good. If you have one of those cars, or you know someone who has one of those cars, let them know if they have not received a letter yet. I would imagine they're so new that they will have received a letter. They're not onto second owners yet. I
would imagine they have received a slightly panicked, don't panic type phone call from their dealership.
Not to worry you, but... Anyway, talking about not worrying, but I'm going to take us on to the Volkswagen Group. And thanks to Porsche saying that they are going to delay their EV-only models. Oh, boy. Volkswagen Group have now worked out that a smidgen under $6 billion is going to be taken from their profits as a result of the work that Porsche are having to do. Last week, we talked about the death of the internal combustion engined 718s, whether that was coupe or convertible.
Mm-hmm.
And these are one of the cars that is actually going to get an ICE back in it when it comes out as the new vehicle. Not only that, but the Panamera and the Cayenne are going to come out and continue to be offered with combustion engine and plug-in hybrids into the 2030s. This was not part of the plan. This was not what was expected to happen. And Porsche's stock price, as a result of this, has taken a massive hit. Ouch.
Yes.
Particularly because of the intertwined Volkswagen Group, Porsche, Volkswagen Group share. Who owns what, where now?
They share a CEO.
Well, he's trying to move away from that, to be fair to him.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just a bit...
But I think because he knew what was coming out, he's going, if I don't look like I'm making a positive step here, then my head will be called for by the shareholders, which is understandable.
Yeah, quite really. You see, there's two things at play here. One is, oh goodness, that's terrible for the shareholders because the most important thing isn't customer satisfaction, it's shareholder value.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, when you look at the recent history over the past decade or so, most of the troubles that Porsche have been facing have been as a relatively direct result of an over-dependency on Volkswagen Group, where a company in Volkswagen Group, Audi,
carry on,
has decided to do something naughty or just poorly, then it's had a knock-on effect on Porsche.
Yeah.
It's a bloomin' brave move to make this, well, to stop and say we're going to wait before we do this and we're going to change our plan.
I think they feel they've got no choice.
Well, yeah, I understand it.
I mean, there's all this talk about how people are saying, oh, look, the premium and luxury EV market hasn't taken off. And you go, look at the products that were offered. Look at the products that were offered because the industry took even though it was told decades ago it was going to zero emission, it had a knee-jerk reaction because Dieselgate happened.
The Taycan was kind of cool, though. Still is.
Yeah, but there's problems with software. There's problems with reliability.
It's got loads of problems.
And it is not Porsche alone. You look at Mercedes, you look at Audi, BMW, all of them have had issues. Some are doing better now. Some are doing better now.
BMW fewer.
Yes, some are doing better now. But they did, because they fought hammer and tong to not move to zero emission, they got caught completely on the back foot, which is why the likes of Hyundai have done so well, I would posit, because they were not reticent in moving to a multi-powertrain idea. They worked well with their suppliers, whereas the car industry in Europe has not done the same thing. And they are playing catch-up, massively playing catch-up, and they are still finding the problems that others found a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, I have sympathy because of the knock-on effect where people are losing jobs. We'll get into that more soon, because this is not a happy first part of the show. I'm very sorry, everyone. We tried our best. We really did.
Dragging it out something rotten as well.
But I have sympathy for the people who were affected by this, but I have no sympathy for the car industry because they did their damnedest not to ignore that this was going to come along, and they've been caught cold. And I'm sorry, you are getting what you deserve at this point.
On which happy note, let's move on to the next story. Nissan!
Talking of getting what they deserve. Oh, dear.
Nissan is going to be downsizing its London design studio in Paddington. It's going to close some others in a costs push. This is all part of the re-Nissan plan that was announced a couple of months ago, which means that they're trying to claw back the £3.8 billion loss that Nissan recorded last year. It's going to be closing the design centers in California and in Sao Paulo and scaling back its operations as design headquarters in Japan.
Can I make a suggestion here, though, right? Of all the things Nissan shouldn't be doing is scaling back design work.
No.
I can understand shutting some of...
It's the wrong
I can
bit.
understand shutting some of the design studios, but the ones that you still have decided to keep open, making them smaller, I think one of the things they've really struggled with in recent years, particularly if you look at North America,
Differentiation.
is their designs do not stand out.
Oh, no. They're absolute. North America, Nissan are their automotive porridge. There's just nothing distinctive about them. I'm running through in my mind just in case I'm being unfair. And other than the Z, which I think I saw 2 it was 2 years of launch time that I was there. I think maybe 3 actually. Let me up it. 3.
Okay.
That's hardly staying in my own little area. I covered tens of thousands of miles around the US on roads. Then, yeah, they just don't stick out. I mean, they are cheap cars for people who don't like driving, really. And if they're not cheap cars, they're incredibly expensive cars and pickup trucks. I would say that Nissan has to get some kind of design and styling mojo back.
Absolutely.
And the way you do that is by investing in designers. There's all sorts of stuff that the London studio contributed to, stuff like the number of concepts, like the ones that the Quasana and the Grips, which became the Duke Marks 1 and 2, and the new Micro 1, and the Micro C+C drop top of 2005.
I only ever see them in pink, just to overemphasize how ugly they are.
No, the worst for that's the Renault Megane one. There was that special edition, which was a hearing aid beige with a liver-coloured interior. That's the worst.
Ooh. Someone
Someone will tell us what that special edition was called. It was a Florin or something like that.
Retirement.
Yes. Well, it was very much that, yeah. Nissan's going to be leveraging partnerships with companies such as Renault to help design its cars. So Nissans are going to be rebadged something else.
Well, we've seen that with the Micro.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's the example that's given.
And we said when we talked about it was, if there wasn't the 5, you go, that's actually quite a good-looking car.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that's not mentioned here that does worry me a bit, but I'm hoping is safe, is TCE, so Technical Centre Europe.
Is that Cranfield?
Yes, Cranfield, just outside Milton Keynes.
They need that.
That is vital because that's the technical centre for the whole of Europe. And there's lots of very important stuff that Nissan has introduced into European market vehicles as a result of the work at Cranfield and being able to get a Japanese engineer in a car and go, look, the CVTs don't work with roundabouts.
I was going to say that being in Britain gives you, because our roads are almost third world poverty spec now as well, if you can work here, you're going to be fabulous on the lovely Spanish, French, wherever in the rest of German roads. I agree with you. And I hope that this stays the way, because much as I have not been a fan of some of the products Nissan have come out in the last decade, 2 decades, when I have driven them, I've never gone, oh, this is a dreadful thing to drive.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I have plenty of other criticisms, but to drive it has never been the problem.
Do you remember the story I told you from, I'm sure it's in the Nissan Duke Mark II launch special edition, that the engineers at the technical centre were really, really proud of the fact that they had 3D scanned a roundabout in Milton Keynes and had it recreated, road surface and all, at the technical centre in Japan, because it just had a little bit of everything that made roundabouts hard. It's why American and Asian CVT transmissions do not work in Europe as a whole. Was because they weren't programmed to deal with roundabouts, because roundabouts involve braking but not stopping, changes of direction, and then acceleration all at once.
Yes.
And it just overwhelms car sensors if they don't know what it is they're looking at. Anyway, I've gone off on a massive tangent, mostly because it was more interesting and more positive than I think most of the news that we actually have to talk about. Andrew, next round of job cuts. Go on.
Yes. Well, we're going to go to Germany this time.
If we can make it brief, then before all our listeners slit their wrists, then that would be appreciated.
Well, forget them. It's us.
I know.
No offense, dear listener, but this is grim for us too. And we're going to go to Germany, and Ford has announced that he's going to cut up to 1,000 jobs at the Cologne factory that makes the Explorer and the Capri due to, breaks fingers with quotation marks, weak EV demand, or is it weak demand for your EVs?
Well, yeah. I mean, the Explorer's fine and all. I've driven one. I drove one at SMMT, and
it's a lovely Volkswagen.
It was perfectly fine, but it's very much a Volkswagen. Whenever you're inside, it's a Volkswagen. I think it looks all right, but it's not more expensive than an ID4. The Capri is a total dog's dinner.
Yeah.
And an expensive dog's dinner.
We're ignoring the name there.
Oh, no, I don't really care about it.
The least problem with it.
I have no sentimental attachment to the name, so I don't care about the name. I just think it looks ugly.
If you click the link in the show notes to the Autocar article, there is some fantastic explanation from Ford as to what the problems are. And apparently it's the reluctance of all people buying EVs, nothing to do with their EVs perhaps not being what people want or can, and this is the most important thing, dear car industry, can afford to buy at the moment with the way everything is. And I think that's the real big problem with all of this, is cars, full stop. How long have we banged on about this? About 3-4 years now since they started going up way beyond inflation rate.
Mm-hmm.
You just go, people just can't afford them. There is your answer. There is your full problem. At the end of the day, the buck stops with, we cannot afford, we do not have the monthlies now.
And the trouble is, because it's a Ford, it doesn't have the residuals that your Volkswagens, even these days your Kias and Hyundais and whatever else has. It's always going to be a more expensive choice than equivalents with more premium badges. Which would you have? An Audi or a Ford? They cost within a $5 a month. I'll have the Audi if you're that kind of person.
Yeah. And that's if you don't go second hand.
Yeah, well, totally. Absolutely.
Anyway, Alan, do you want to take us to Japan for some very bad and sad news?
Yes. Sadly, the man who is credited with the first 2 generations of Mazda MX-5, and their design and styling, Tsutomu Tom Matano, has died just on the 20th of September there at the age of 76. He was born in Nagasaki in Japan, qualified as an engineer there, but by 1974 moved into automotive design. He started General Motors in Detroit, was later in Australia, before a 6-year stint at BMW. In 1983, he became the chief designer at Mazda North America's California Design Studio. The original MX-5 supposedly didn't look nearly as much like a Lotus Elan as it actually ended up looking, but a lot of it was to do with packaging and all of that kind of thing, which sort of pushed the proportions out to match the Elan. Very cool. In 1999, he became Mazda's executive designer for the first time working in Japan, but he left the company in 2002 after 19 years. Very sad. Did a big influence on lots of vehicles on the road there.
Yeah. And we are still eternally grateful that Mazda has made the MX-5 and continues to do so.
Yeah.
Right, I am going to take us to China now, and this is the news that Warren Buffett and his investment company has sold their entire stake in BYD. This is the first time since 2008 they do not hold any shares in the Chinese electric vehicle company. Obviously, representatives of BYD are putting quite a positive gloss on this and thank him for his companionship and support, particularly in the early years when they looked like they were just a freak little company out in China before they became the behemoth that they are, particularly in the electric and battery-powered sectors. But is this perhaps a sign that Chinese EVs or the EV companies are about to hit or have been hitting quite a bit of choppy water, shall we say, when it comes to their market? There might be an article in the second part that helps explain a little bit about this, but the Chinese government has had to step in and tell the EV makers to stop undercutting each other in order for the greater good. The greater good. It's not going well over there, which is why we are seeing so many new car companies come over to Britain, because we have not put any tariffs in place, unlike Europe, unlike Mexico now, unlike America.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Canada have done very similar as well.
There's talk about Canada getting rid of them.
Oh, taking them away.
But who knows, really? I don't know if that was just a thing because of stuff happening south of the border.
Yeah.
Not quite as far south as old Mexico, but, you know.
But it is quite a step to remove all their shares in BYD.
One of the things that is worth mentioning about Berkshire Hathaway is that they never at any point have held any shares in Tesla.
No.
Which was something that BYD was kind of proud of, to be honest. Understandably.
I don't blame them at all.
Wiser people.
Look, we're rounding out the first part of the show.
Oh,
and we have
good news.
Scraped all barrels everywhere. We honestly have to try and find something positive. And we found one article that is remotely positive in any way. And Alan, it is down to you.
It's hard to be a happy, chirpy news aggregation show where the only news you have to aggregate is all blooming misery. But Toyota has added a new product to its Gazoo Racing Heritage parts line. It is adding the 4AGE the key components of the 4AGE engine to its catalogue. That's the engine that powers the Corolla AE86 and many other Toyotas of that period, generally the sporty racy ones. They will be offering the cylinder head subassembly without cams or valves, and they will also be reproducing cylinder block subassemblies as well, without the rotating assembly of cranks and pistons. But that's not an issue because there's loads of those in the aftermarket. But it's very hard for the aftermarket to produce new blocks and heads. This is very cool. There are also some changes. So, of course, the A86 is from the mid-80s. Obviously, machining standards have moved on since then, as has metallurgy and stuff. And these are unlikely to be going into vehicles that will leave a totally charmed life driving to and from shops and nothing else. As a result, the bores are honed to modern machining standards. The cast iron of the block even is updated with a higher rigidity composition. And Toyota's also modified the crank cap structure for durability as well.
More of this, please. Love it. I mean, this goes on the back of the 2000 GT, the A70, the A80 Supras, as well as Land Cruisers, ranging from the 1960s into the late 90s, is stuff they are offering manufacturer-made parts for. And this is good, because the cars are already on the road.
Or the track.
The best thing we can do for those cars is keep them running at a better standard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the one, you remember my W124? When I went off and I was able to order a new key from the Mercedes factory, delivered to the dealership. Yeah. That made me incredibly happy.
Yeah.
So silly, but it made me incredibly happy that it was cheaper for me to do that than for me to go to a key cutting place and get some cheap key, but for the same price, if not more, than the proper Mercedes one.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally, folks, that takes us to that break in the show called Guilt Minute. It is where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from our podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show, whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all that, and some of you do, and thank you for those of you who keep updating things like patron subscriptions and stuff, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you, everyone that does, has, and continues to do so. It's very much appreciated.
Yes.
Okay, new car news, and we have to start with an apology. We were very down on Munich last week, and we were trying to scramble around to find positive cars, and we missed out one of the most positive and uplifting cars that was there.
It was in one list that we saw, but then it wasn't in the list that we used in the end.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Editorial error, I think, is the technical term for that one. Or I messed up. Choose your title wisely. However, this is the Ioniq. I'm going to go with 3 because the other name got changed very quickly, and only in the article we're going to have linked on slide 7, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a perfectly reasonable thing, right? There was a Mazda 323 that is known by the same 2-letter combo.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly reasonable. There's a whole Costco competitor in the US called BJ's. There is no reason that the Ioniq BJ should be amusing in any way, shape, or form, especially when it's beside a Dick's Sporting Goods.
Anyway, ignoring the name, the car looks fabulous. Think Veloster, but electric, and they have gone to town on it. I think it looks great. It looks recognizably as an Ioniq in certain aspects, like the front end. If you'd removed the badge, I would have said that was a Hyundai.
Especially at the front, it's a lot like the 6, and at the back, it's a bit more like a 5.
Yeah, because they've got that dot matrix lighting.
And in between, it's a Veloster. Yeah.
But obviously, the Hyundai group at the moment have got this fetish for pillarless suicide doors, which I have no problem with at all, but they will never make it to production. Even in flat grey, I think this car looks brilliant. And it is apparently a design study to give a hint on how a small electric hatchbacks might be for the Ioniq sub-brand from Hyundai.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this actually makes it to production? Because there is a lot of stuff in there. Some of it we've seen on production cars, like the wing mirrors. We've already seen on the 6.
Yeah.
There are no door handles. Let's just clarify that one.
It's a concept.
It's a concept, obviously. And the wheels are enormous, and then there's stuff around the back that you go, well, that won't happen. But overall, I could see it happening. Quite a lot of this, with certain changes, obviously, but I could see quite a lot of this happening. And I love it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Next up, from the same group, Kia has announced that the Kia K4, a Golf rivaling/sized hatchback, has been confirmed for the UK. It's interesting, especially as it's a car. And I know that sounds silly. It sounds weird to emphasize that, but it is the car. It's an internal combustion engine car.
Yeah, and you can tell that it's internal combustion engine because of the design of the front end. Because Kia have differentiated between their electric and their internal combustion stroke hybrid ones with a certain way that they deal with the front lights in particular. I
will say that it has a phenomenally long front overhang, and it is not the most attractive Kia model out there. I don't think
the colour helps either. This is sort of a mustard.
It is a kind of mustard, yeah.
I would like to see it in, say, Kia's metallic blue or something. That might help it.
And I'd like to see it in the flesh,
yes.
Of course, because it's very hard to make any kind of proper judgment based on press pictures. The inside's nice, though. But anyway, it will come as either a hatchback or a saloon. The saloon is not going to be offered here. Only the hatchback is of interest. It is somewhere between C and D segment, so it's particularly long for a Golf rivaling car. It's actually about 20 centimetres longer than a Mark 8 Golf. Depending on which engine you choose, Kia can accommodate up to 438 litres of luggage with the seats up, 1,217 with the seats down. There's going to be 5 different powertrains at launch, starting off with a 115 horsepower turbocharged 1 litre engine with a 6-speed manual gearbox. There will be a mild hybrid version that comes with a 7-speed dual clutch auto. And there'll also be a turbocharged 1.6 4-cylinder engine with either 150 or 180 horsepower outputs. There will be a full hybrid model along later in 2026. A number of different specs along the usual lines that Kia use.
Mm-hmm.
Full pricing specification will be confirmed closer to the K4 going on sale, and that will be in the fourth quarter of 2025.
Right, I'm going to round out a new car news with something utterly ridiculous but utterly wonderful. Because again, we are trying to lift the mood now from the first part of the show. And this is the Resto Mod Lamborghini Diablo from Eccentrica.
No, you've just made it sound like the gas company. It's Eccentrica.
Yeah, but maybe they...
As in Columbus.
Yes, maybe they did actually read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and went, you know what? Yes. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go buy the book or go get the audiobook and listen to that particular bit. However, they are based in San Marino, and they have revealed 3 vehicles at Monterey Car Weekend, and this was one of them. And this has got a V12 engine.
Well, it's a Diablo. It's kind of part of the course. Basically
a satin black, but everything is black in this. The interior is black apart from some of the dials. And it's just utterly wonderful. It is. I am so overjoyed. One, it's not a Porsche.
I'm so overjoyed by the black on black on black. That's what I've just heard you say. No. It should maybe have been. They shouldn't have called themselves the Essential. They should have called themselves the Hot Black if we're going to follow this particular theme. It is exposed weave, satin finished carbon fiber for the entirety of the body. On this particular one, and it's just evil.
I mean, the pictures really make it look great as well, to be fair. Much as we just slagged off the last lot of pictures in for the KV4 because we now need to see that in person. This, yes, I want to see it in person, and I never will, but the pictures look amazing.
Yes. They showed 2 others, one in a triple layer rose gold livery, which doesn't really sound like it appeals to me. Mm-hmm. And the other in a Verde Chartreuse green pastel colour, which I can't really imagine what that looks like, but I kind of want to see it, to be honest. What I love most about this is the interior, though, because they have completely redone the dashboard and the HVAC controls and the center console.
You look like you have room in it, to be fair.
Well, it must just be the angle of the photo, I think. But it looks fantastic, and it's just super retro pixelated screens.
Yeah.
Intentionally pixelated, not just rubbish.
And you can see the rev counter going over the top as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be amazing.
C4 Corvette style.
Yeah.
But I like this a lot. This made me smile.
Yeah.
In a sort of, what the heck?
There is no mention of price, and I didn't even need to ask the price, and I knew that there was no way that it would be representative of anything sensible in any way. It's not going to be.
I mean, they're only going to make, 19, I think it says here, 19 examples of the Pascetto Titano, each powered by a tuned version of Lamborghini's naturally aspirated 5.7-litre V12 engine. Yeah, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Yeah. One of those. Lunchtime read this week. And it's about the Chinese EV and auto industry and how it is sending it into a tailspin, according to Reuters. There's quite a lot of reading in this. It is really quite very interesting about how KPIs were kind of set by the government, which was about like a minimum number of vehicles that were needed to be made for the factories to get the funding and all these kinds of things. Even when there isn't necessarily demand, these factories are just churning out vehicles and vehicles and vehicles. And then what the heck to do with them once they're built.
Mm.
And it's very interesting. I recommend taking the time to read it. It is one of our longer lunchtime reads that we've had for a while.
Yeah, we've talked at length over the last probably 3-4 years of the Chinese car industry, and we have tried to point out where others who have maybe more prominent voices than ours have got things very wrong, have not understood situations because they do not understand China, its history, the political makeup, etc.
I don't think anyone understands China, its history, and its political makeup, in all fairness.
Some of us have a better understanding than others, though, and I would suggest that you and I are, in the car commenting world, are higher up that list than maybe others. So this is why we're recommending this article, is because this will be a good reminder for those who are long-time listeners, but that anyone coming on board more recently or has forgotten what we've said, this is a great understanding of where the Chinese EV car industry came from, how it came about, and the inherent problems with it. However, that will give an indication of how much, say, the European car industry is now under pressure because of decisions in China and in Europe.
Oh, the extra challenge for the European industry is, of course, China is doing what the US and Europe did over 80 years, and it's doing it in 18 years.
Yeah, because
it's going through the same cycles.
No, well,
so
yes and
pretty much.
Yes and no. But they've got the added bonus of they've got paid to learn these lessons thanks to the West going over there. This is the thing that we, both you and I, get very right, that most other people don't recognize or don't understand, is that the West rushed out to China to exploit cheap labor in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they have paid to teach China what is expected in terms of quality and quality control, and in terms of iteration and in terms of development, which they have then taken, and they are very good at iteration and developing something even further. And they have done so, and it's now coming back to bite the West.
I used to see that when I was doing product design. We'd deal with loads and loads of Chinese suppliers, and some of them were fantastic. Yeah. The quality that we were getting was better than anything you could get in Europe. The turnaround times, even before Teams meetings or any of these things, or easy access to rapid prototyping for small companies, all these kind of things, they just shot ahead. Yeah. And they were a delight to work with, but some of the smartest people I've ever worked with.
Yeah, and they think long term.
Absolutely. Really interesting article from Reuters there.
Bit heavier than normal, but we feel it's...
And longer.
We feel it's really worth you reading to get a grasp, because you're going to hear a lot of people talking about, or you do hear a lot of people talking about China. But like we say, not sure most of them actually truly understand the situation. Anyway, moving on to list of the week. And this time, we're going to use a list from Classic and Sports Cars that talks about an Italian designer called Michelotti, who I didn't really know about. I have to be brutally honest.
Really? Oh, I suppose not.
But when I go through the list and I see the designs he has worked on and he has penned, I go, I do know your work, sir.
I have to work with this. Somehow I've done this 650 times with this guy. And he never heard of Michelotti. I did just, dear me. You have massive, massive chunks of your education missing, Mr. Clues.
I know. Come on, you've got 25 slides to pick from. I think 24 are different ones. What is the slide that stands out the most to you?
I just have real trouble with this one because there's so many cute and cool cars. I'm going to choose the DAF 44.
Hang on. What slide number is that, please?
That's slide 12 in your handout.
12, thank you. Hang on, let me just get to that.
It is the first big DAF, so of course the Dutch, the small Dutch car with its Variamatic transmission, powered literally by rubber bands. My mum had a 66, you see, which was like 2 generations on from this 1970s one. But yes, it's very, very cool. So this was from 1966. I still think it's got great proportions. I mean, the wheels are tiny and everything, but it's a lovely, cute little car.
Yeah.
Just enough. I don't know, just enough to stop it. It's cute, but not too cutesy. Right.
Well, I'm going to swing us wildly different from that, only because I've got such memories of this. I'm going to take us to slide 17 and the Leyland National Bus.
Oh, gee, I thought you might choose that.
And because I'm a person of a certain age, I do recognise, particularly the one that they have got there shown, I do recognise this bus completely. It was the staple of British roads for when it came to single-decker buses. And I had no idea he was involved in the design of that.
Oh, yeah.
And
they did lots of Leyland and BL stuff, as you can see throughout it.
Yeah.
Neither of us have chosen a Triumph, probably intentionally. Triumph, to me, is what he was most associated with. If I may pick one more, and there's plenty of Italian cars in here too, but for me, the other one that I was wavering between choosing was the Triumph 2000 and 2500 saloon car.
Okay.
That was fantastic, sort of, I don't know. I'd never quite know how to describe that shape. In Triumph Stag, same designer, had the same kind of grille and tail as well. But very cool.
What I would say, and I'm not going to do more than name the number of number 23, I could quite easily see that as a BMW.
Absolutely, yes.
Particularly of the time.
Yes.
So there's there is a very eclectic mix in the type of designs that he was involved in and the type of vehicles. And I love coming across and expanding my education, as Alan has lamented on my poor education. But this is expanded it, and this is great to see something like this. You go, oh wow, I had no idea. But I do know. I just didn't know precisely. It's always nice to connect dots.
Yes, Andrew.
Anyway, take us to the end finally. We're nearly done, everyone.
And finally this week, Mazda has patented a new type of engine. It has patented a 6-stroke petrol engine that separates hydrogen from carbon. You put regular unleaded fuel into the car. It then does stuff with it involving catalysts and pressure and heat and things to extract carbon one way and hydrogen the other way, and then combusts the hydrogen, meaning that all that comes out the tailpipe, notionally, is water. And somehow it collects the carbon. I don't know what happens if you just got like the opposite of an ashtray. And you just like take it out and go, I'll use that in the barbecue at the weekend. And you sort of, I have no idea what you do with it.
We are not engineers. We are not able to fully understand the diagrams that are in this article that are linked to the submission.
Well, I think it's very difficult to do it without a guide, and that's pretty standard for patent diagrams. But there is a lot of description about what goes on. Do follow the link to the article on Car Buzz and make your head hurt by doing that. I mean, of course, it's the company that came up with a turbocharged triple rotary engine, everyone.
I look forward to them bringing it out to market and Alan being one of the first to buy it and being financially ruined.
The last...
no, it'd be under warranty, you'll be fine.
Oddly engined Mazda I had, despite still being under warranty, almost financially ruined me. So I'm not that keen to repeat the experience.
Understandable.
Anyway, that brings us kicking and screaming to the end this week. Don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts for the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, in the meantime, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky, or failing that, if you prefer LinkedIn, I am there under my full name. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you and curse you for being the person who introduced a couple of articles which meant the drinking game had to come back, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you personally?
Best way to get in touch with me personally is to use Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley, that's BRADLEY.social. We'll be back, as we said, very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.